then people are like, oh, I just discovered it a few months ago, StarCraft. I come from playing this other game, or I wasn't that big of a gamer, and I can't believe I've been living without this game. Like, it's the most competitive, amazing thing out there. So I guess that's the scary thing, right? Is how do you do it without losing that? And that's what they've. I mean, they know that's the challenge. So as long as they keep that guiding principle at their core, I'm pretty excited to see what Frost Giant does. And you know what? I am prepared to be disappointed because I know whatever they create will disappoint me in some ways, even while pleasing me in other ways. Like it's not going to be perfect. No game ever is. But as long as it feels smooth and at its core, it just is fun to play and it has that StarCraft 2-esque smooth competitive RTS-ness to it, I'll be happy.
That's actually what's been turning me off of a bunch of RTSs that I've tried playing, is that they just haven't been made by someone, like, they haven't had a whole lot of money for those RTSs, right? Like the ones that have been made by indie studios. No one AAA is really making RTSs at the moment. And, I mean, Frost Giant is saying they're AAA, and I believe it. Like, they got a lot of investors, which is great, so they actually have some good money to make a good game. Some really professional industry standard people there as well, so... my point is, the thing that turns me off with a lot of the RTSs is they kind of look jank and they feel jank. Like, they don't feel smooth. And that's, I think, what StarCraft is... Like, we were talking about Age of Mythology earlier and those old RTSs and going back to play those old games. They frustrate me now. I can't play them again because I've played too much StarCraft, intermittently, mind you, but I've played too much StarCraft 2 and it's too smooth and everything else just doesn't feel good.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I mean, I when I'm playing a lot of other games, I have the same thing where I'm like, oh, right, the micro is kind of awkward and whatever, right? Whereas it's this real beautiful smoothness with the micro in StarCraft. I like what Scarlett said, where she just pointed out, like, hey, just the turn rate of units in StarCraft 2 is way faster than other RTSs, and that's what makes the game feel so smooth, right? It's, you know, she's like, yeah, it's cool to have a tank that turns realistically, but it just doesn't feel good, you know? If you're driving that tank individually, yeah, it's fine, sure, but we're not playing Tank Simulator, you know? You're controlling 50 tanks, or a big army of things.
I want my tanks to turn like my siege tanks, where they're like, bam! Like, instant 360, you know? Like, yeah. You can just do, like, a spin on the spot within a second.
Yeah. And by the way, guys, so here when we do the backseat, we do it around this time every week. We like you guys all to share your thoughts and kind of go alongside us in chat. We'll occasionally grab one of the comments from the chat. You guys drop some bloody funny zingers as well as some insightful stuff mixed in with the chaff.
Yeah, some wheat in the chaff. Pig, are we casting tonight? Oh no, we're not. I've got the day off.
I am. Are you?
No, I got the night off.
Hey, like a week cast tonight? Wait, I'm not. Okay.
I'm used to doing every single day for DreamHack, and I forgot.
I think I'm with Zeph, I believe.
Oh, fuck.
You're with Zeph.
That's awkward.
Actually, speaking of Zeph, shout out to the ZombieGrub podcast. It's the most recent episode.
Yeah, I haven't had a chance to listen yet, but I saw that.
I haven't either, but I will.
Where shall we march?
Yeah, your wall is a diagonal. That's a very hard choke point to position in Adeptor or Zeladin. Stalker's a little bit easier there, but that's the wall off where Lings will always get through, unless you're pixel perfect.
Well, let's hope he doesn't send Lings.
So Black Frame says, one of my clearest memories from when SE2 was pre-alpha was how controversial multiple building selection was. Yeah, ZG was talking about that before. I actually find that it was, like, to me, I know there's people that don't like it from Brood War, but to me it's become a complete non-issue. It's just a quality of life thing that's made the game so much more fun.
Yeah. No, it's got to be the way to go. The rest of the game. Whoops.
The rest of the genre, even.
Yeah, sorry.
Can Pig grow a beard? I would like to know that too, Griff. Can you grow a beard, Pig? Will Dot let you, I think, is the more probably solid question.
Does a mangy, kind of bits missing, kind of mangy dog coat?
Oh, you got a trailer park beard.
Yeah, I got a trailer park beard. Yep. Yeah, I look, when I was younger, it was like good for making me look older, but also homeless was the side effect, so yeah. People like kind of assumed, like they would kind of steer around me and stuff, but yeah. I do have the anti-Hitler, doesn't grow in the middle.
Oh, very good.
Which is cool. Yeah.
Well, you'd rather be
my German roots reject the history of that fuckwit. So yeah.
Genetics just rejected.
Yeah. They're like, oh, majority of the people in our country voted for this guy. Oh, okay. We need to find a way to show, like, you know, so my literal facial hair is virtue signaling that they weren't part of that. You know, my heritage is like, no. We voted against Hitler, you know, 80, 90 years ago, whenever that was. But,
Jesus.
Jesus.
Don't have that strong of a reaction to oracles usually.
but I don't think there was a spore in that man. So this one
There
got away with being
wasn't.
greedy.
Yeah.
Greedy Zergs.
How can I aid you?
Right, ZG's gonna get him. Gonna make a bunch of big tier 3 Protoss units and rip his face off.
Yeah, totally.
Do you do the I guess you're not because you're going to Templar Archives, but have you tried dabbling with the many-century Mass Colossus Blink Stalker thing?
Yeah, I always say I want to try it and then I forget. So.
I don't know. I kind of like that style, but I also find it's very it either does nothing and you just get so one-sidedly destroyed, or you destroy them really hard. And it kind of comes down to where you can force the fight and how your force fields land and stuff. But yeah, I find Immortal Storm is just something that's like a nicer army to kind of roam the map and run zealots in. Whereas anytime I find myself with like 35 Blink Stalkers left over after a fight, I'm like, I don't know. I'm not very good with my Blink micro.
Yeah, to me it's like maybe more about force fields than Blink Macro, I guess. But you have to get up to that point, right? So when you have that ball, I'm also not a very good player, so you just tell me to shut the fuck up. I'll apply it. I'll comply. RJNFB. Get in there. Come on, Phoenix. Yeah, that's supposed to be a void right now, ZombieGrub.
Huh, oh yeah.
The void razor overlord killer.
I didn't need to torch myself with turtle.
RJNFB. We just used your Doom run as an example of perseverance for my kid. Thanks.
They're just showing him the clip of you just like dying inside every time.
If you want to show that the full perseverance, you would need to show a lot of stream. I'll beat my head against that wall for a very long time.
Did you record how many like hours in total it was? All the runs combined?
I'd have to guess maybe, if I had to guess all the runs combined,
yeah,
50, 60 hours maybe?
Ooh.
Something like that.
Damn.
Did you edit out all the gimme your cummies when showing? No, the unedited YouTube video will be up soon enough. Don't worry about it, ZombieGrub. It's just a, you know, bit of lootism from the streamer.
Okay.
Yeah. Just asking when we're getting rained on, we were thanking Sky Daddy for his coming.
Singularity said
way to say things.
an interesting comment. Eating 1,000 beans with a toothpick is hard, but I wouldn't call it a mechanic that a great mass of people would be interested in. I think RTS games sometimes suffer with elitism around hard mechanics that are tedious just for the sake of it. Not because it adds to the strategic element or skill expression. Well, I would say it does add to the skill expression. Maybe not the strategic element, but it does add to the skill expression. And in a way, most RTS strategy is based around some of these tasks that simply need to be done, right? It's how do you balance attacking your opponent with getting workers onto your bases properly saturated and starting your upgrades on time, right? If you focus too hard on one, the other falls away. So there always needs to be a certain amount of mechanical difficulty or you lose the core RTS component, which is managing your attention and your actions in a situation where you can never do everything at once. Now, a lot of people, they want to be able to do everything perfectly. Okay, well, this is just a mundane, it's just a meaningless task, but you kind of need, like, you could automate everything, right? So just for the interests of theory crafting here, couldn't you automate it so all workers automatically just build and go to the new bases, and you could just say, oh yeah, go to 66 workers, turn worker production on, turn it off with a button on the side of your screen at all times. You don't even need to click buildings, right? There's, you know, you could simplify the whole game, but then at that point, you're suddenly purely in a war of micro. And it's just about non-stop micro and seeing you can overwhelm. And you lose that, well, I'm putting my attention in macro here and then micro at this point. Like, I feel like you lose one of the most important aspects of what makes RTS fun, satisfying, and also strategically deep, because it's the real-time attention management that is the core of RTS. So I think it's very hard to distinguish between something that is unnecessarily tedious or, you know, that you can make more accessible and the alternative. For me, that's an incredibly hard conversation to have.
That's right. And ZombieGrub, you don't seem to be busy. What are your thoughts?
Motherfuckers. But yeah, what do you reckon, Maynard? Like is there?
I like StarCraft 2 to me is so close to perfect. Like, I have very few complaints about the game that I would hate for, like, you know, I had a guy in my chat saying, you know, RTS is real-time strategy, not real-time clickety-click. And there are people that have that opinion that it's just mechanics, that there isn't strategy in StarCraft 2, because...
Yeah, well, these are people who don't like sport then. I mean, that's what makes it a sport.
Yeah.
It's not a sport if you're just sitting there and picking your units and watching them go at each other. That's this is literally, it's like, oh, there's no strategy in fighting because you need to be a certain good amount of physical athleticism.
Yeah. And even in fighting games, in games, it's very strategical. It's super mind gaming. Like, it's very strategical as well as being mechanical. And I think that like if you don't have the mechanical aspect, it's very hard to actually. Like, the reason why I think StarCraft 2 has so many people respect it still after 10 years, even if they don't follow their game necessarily, it's not their main game anymore, but like the old salts, the people that you know, have been in esports for a while will still appreciate it, is because it's it's like a mechanically difficult game to be really good at it. It's not hard to start playing, but to be good at it is hard. And I think that that's, you know, there can be really smart bronze players, right?
Yeah.
But the really impressive stuff is when someone has not only just making smart decisions in their own way to play, but also the mechanical ability to do what they want to do against someone at a similar level. So that to me adds to a lot of the purity of the esport and adds to a lot of the part that impresses your average Joe.
Yeah. Well,
as well.
look
like,
at Haas.
To watch. Like, to me, there's auto chess is essentially like, you know, there's not mechanics, but you're just using your brain, right? From what I understand, that's what auto chess is. Am I right or wrong?
Yeah.
There's no mechanics.
Absolutely. I mean, you look at a player who's so bad at macro, like Hassan wins games, right? And it's this, his skill set is in this one part of the game, not these other parts. And it's interesting. And I mean, Singularity and a few other people came back and were like, well, yeah, I guess it's the, you know, but the, you know, well, worker rallying in Brood War, having it put every worker on mine just felt so tedious. I mean, on a fundamental level, it's no different, right, to anything else we just mentioned. But it does, to all of us, sound obscene as StarCraft 2 players. We're like, oh, fuck that. We're never going back to that. Like, no way. We can't do that. But I wonder if in the long term, if it's just a matter of scaling to expectation, right, and presentation, right, where it's like, okay, we'll ease this mechanic. We'll soften that. We'll make this more accessible. At a certain point, you're always still going to be a bit more hardcore than the other games out there, right? You're always going to be, you're making it a bit more accessible based on what people expect and what they're willing to put up with, but there's always going to be extra tasks that kind of need to be done and the inability to do them properly. So I think at its core, one of the problems you face with designing an RTS is you kind of need to constantly be faced with the frustration of being unable to do everything you want to do. Like, that is something that has to be there. There has to be that, or you're not playing RTS anymore.
Yeah. Yeah, I agree. It's part of what makes it a game. Otherwise, it's just like, you might as well just take the real-time part of it out.
Yeah.
Just make it a turn-based thing. Wanna go in that direction, which I'm not super against. Like, I actually quite like turn-based strategy games, but I don't know if I'd watch competitive.
Yeah, no, not at all.
I like the speed.
I'd watch you play through a campaign and laugh at it and have fun and stuff, and you know, especially when you guys die and you had your whole squad on a rooftop and a grenade just took out the floor and the floor below it, and they took double falling damage and you lost your entire squad.
They call that learning the mechanics with your face. I'm gonna test the hardness of the surface with my face.
That was like my turning point in becoming a true XCOM diehard, was when that happened to me the first time, and I got so angry. And I like was Googling shit, and I was like, what the fuck? I didn't know this could happen. This game's so stupid. I started looking up, and I came across the whole "That's XCOM, baby" in response to anyone crying on a forum. It's all any XCOM fans were like, "That's XCOM, baby." And I was like, oh, okay, I get it. Kind of got this embrace the pain and the challenge and learn through failure. And I was like, you know what? Yeah. Why not?
So, and chat's bringing up like competitive 40k, like Warhammer 40k tabletop gaming, and to people, some people like that. I actually hate what I would hate. I actually watched Jeff's tabletop streams because I like Jeff and I was interested in it, and I thought it was a pretty cool setup. But oh man, it bored the hell out of me. It's like I can't stick around and watch it.
Yeah. No, absolutely. I'd love to go watch some of it because I did play back in the day. Fantasy I played, Orcs and Gobos, but I'm sure now, as someone who's played so many great games, I'm not sure if it would hold up as much. I'm sure there'd still be a lot of fun to it and stuff, but as someone who's not really into the painting side of and all that sort of stuff, it's like, you know.
Yeah, to me, the cool part of 40k is like the lore, the world, the collectory side of it, not the competitive side of it.
Yeah.
Cool as it is. I appreciate it, but yeah, I couldn't watch a tournament stream of it. No way.
Yeah. Back on where this conversation started, though. So, in the context of us kind of saying, hey, there needs to be some mechanics. You can't just soften every edge. You can't cushion every fall. Like that's part of what makes RTS. But if we're the next one, well, what's the most frustrating things you take out of StarCraft 2? Like what edges do you soften? Like similar to the Broodwater StarCraft 2, and maybe it wouldn't be quite as steep. I hope it wouldn't.
I mean,
be.
actually,
yeah.
I know that you brought up like auto building workers as a bad thing. I actually wouldn't hate that, because if you had like a build workers button and a don't build workers button, because then you got the people that if they're too slow, they overbuild workers, or they mismanage their economies. They have too many on one base and not the other. Like I would still say it like keep the worker transfer, the maynarding part of it, the the saturation, like make that something you have to do. But like constantly building workers, I think is something you could quality life out maybe in a new RTS. Like I wouldn't be super against that. Fucking Spotify, swear to God, just play the songs. God, Jesus.
Yeah, I think that's cool. So that's the thing where, like, you know, people always ask me about design and balance in RTS, and my, you know, I always kind of wonder why, because my answers are so fucking vanilla, where I always say, oh, game design's really hard, I don't know how to do that. Game balance is really hard, I don't know how to do that. I just look at what we have, and I don't really know anything other than that.
Yeah.
I think you need to put so much brain power to understand that shit.
That yoink though.
That was great.
I'm gonna grab this carrier. Shit, it has more interceptors than I have hydralisks. This is possibly a bad idea.
Yeah, that just brought back a lot of memories, dude. Like when you're losing versus mech, and I'm like, oh, duck these 3 tanks, and I've got like 4 queens and a hydra hitting them, and the tanks kill all the queens and hydra, and I'm like, no, it's just that sad moment. You've got plenty of vipers, nothing to support them. I mean, this Zerg had a pretty big economy, but I think they just needed to do a harder swap into pure corruptor or pure hydra.
I'm gonna backseat streamer real quick. Hey streamer, I know you're not busy right now because all you're doing is microing your detection against lurkers and trying to attack at a really important moment in the game, but can you spam static defense at your bases? Because losing another base would be the end of the game and you have a lot of minerals. Thanks. Okay, great.
Okay. My pylon's done.
Holy shit. Okay, cool suggestion from BoardGB. Production tab. Of your own units. So if and in the point, he says, look, you're in the far future. The sum of information at your fingertips is just mineral, gas, and supply. You thought you started your +3, but you were 4 gas short. 4 minutes later, you're like, why don't my units have +3? You know, like, and I'm like, that's actually cool. I don't actually see that as ruining the gameplay at all. I actually think that totally makes sense. Something like a production tag, that's actually very cool.
I think ZG just won, by the way. Just killed all the croppers for the 2nd time.
Maybe.
Surely. This guy, I mean, this guy is not a professional player. How's his lava management? It's normally not that great at this point. There's going to be a ball of Zerglings in 5
Ay,
seconds.
ay.
Oh, or he leaves. GG.
Yeah, DTs are killing shit.
Yeah, the invisible man strikes again. Well done, ZG. That was cool. Late game PvZ. Well played.
That was sick.
Thanks.
Well played. I'm actually going to write a few of these suggestions down to send to Frost.